Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Real World Prepper. I am the Real World Prepper. Thanks for joining me on this episode. Today I'm going to do something I have not done before, and that is a book review. That's right, a book review on the Stonemont Series. Hey, if you like the content that you find here, please click the subscribe button, like and share this video, and check out my others. Also, join me on Patreon, send me an email or snail mail. All the links are in my About section. Please stick around. Here we go. All right. Thanks for being here. Let's jump right into this. There is a man named Steve Smith. He runs a YouTube channel called Integrative Preparedness. Many of you watching this already know about Mr. Smith and his channel. If not, I encourage you to go right over there and check it out. I will include a link in the description of this video to his channel. Among many other things in this man's life that he is and has done, he is an author. And I'll let you watch his channel to learn more about things he's done and different parts of his life that he has shared on his YouTube and Patreon channels. But I find him to be a very interesting person with some very good insight on just life in general, prepping, all types of things, personal defense, and all types of good information that this gentleman has. And I think he's well-rounded and very smart. And we actually have become friends, as much as you can become friends by way of email and instant messages or direct messages and things of that nature. So but he's one that I trust and would have in my corner if I had my way and could make that happen. That being said, among other things, like I say, Steve Smith at Integrative Preparedness is an author. And I was turned on to a book series that he wrote called the Stonemont Series. Now, the titles of these books are simple enough, and I'd like to give you the most basic definition of each title. So the first book is called the Reversion. Now, the simplest definition that I could come up with, and I looked at several different, like Webster's and, Merriam-Webster, and looked at Google and looked at, there's the other one, whatever it is. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. Another big name dictionary. But at any rate, the simplest version that I could come up with, or definition that I could come up with on the reversion or reversion, is a return to a previous state, practice, or beliefs. So that's a return to a previous state, practice, or beliefs. So that's the reversion, book 1, the title. Book 2 is called the Revival. So the word revival, same thing, looked at many sources, and I've got the most general that I could come up with is an improvement in the condition or the strength of something. So that's revival, an improvement in the condition or the strength of something. And his third book in the Stonemont series is called the Renewal. And Renewal, in that same capacity, is I came up with an instance of resuming an activity or state after an interruption. So again, the renewal is an instance of resuming an activity or a state, like a state of being, after an interruption. So, imagine yourself going to work one day, right? Or going to the restaurant to get you something to eat, or going to the bank, or sitting at your house watching TV, or whatever the case may be. Regular life, the real world. Again, I'm the Real World Prepper, so let's put it in these practical applications. And Steve Smith does too. And I'll explain how this ties together. So imagine it's your everyday life. You're in the real world, right? Whatever you got going on that day is going on. And all of a sudden, things shut down. Things quit working. You might immediately think, let's say power outage, right? Power outage, okay. But then your car doesn't start. The bank ATM doesn't work. No TVs come on, and this, you begin to realize. Sorry about that. Had a little snafu with the camera. But as I was saying, so imagine, like I say, every day, whatever your goings-ons are, and they're going on, and everything goes down, and at some point, however quickly or however long it takes, you realize that this is serious. All right, serious enough to where, let's put it this way, if you guys are watching this channel, I imagine that most of you at least have an idea of prepping. Whether you prep or not, you understand the idea here. So this is from a perspective, mine in this case, that is one of preparedness to as much as I can be and as much as I know to be. So at some point it would trigger me, and I assume for you as well, that something's wrong. And whatever your first course of action is, you take, which for me, it would be to get my stuff, say, out of my vehicle. I've got my go bag, I've got a rifle, I've got my sidearm, which is usually on me, and I want to get home, right? That is our plan. My family's plan is to get home. So let's say that's yours too. Whatever your plan is, you enact it right then. You put it in play, and there you go. That's your plan. If your plan is to freak out, if your plan is to loot, if your plan is to stand there and pee your pants and cry, or if your plan is to get up and go and do whatever you have to do, that's what you do. So you get back, in the case of me, all right, I get back home, the family eventually meets me, we assess, we just see what's going on, we observe, but each day that goes by, we think more about what that means for the long-term picture of this, say, power outage. You know, the system is down, the grid is down, things are not working, there's no groceries, there's no running cars, there's nothing more than what you have or have prepared, or what you can produce and defend. This is exactly what the Stonemont series talks about. It is a real-life scenario, fiction of course, but a true enough scenario that could happen from a perspective of realism that is, it's not like watching a Michael Bay movie. It is steeped in realism. In all three of these books, and I'll speak to all three in just a second in one regard, in all three of them, I can totally believe and buy into the story that was being told. Because what you get is real people dealing with real things. You get different perspectives. You get different types of people and how they deal with these things. Some are good, some are bad, in that their motives, you know, or their responses are positive, whereas others are negative. But you get it all in a realistic way that you can relate to, living in this modern Western civilization that we live in. So, first of all, let me say this about the three books. You can read the first one, the Reversion, by itself and end it. But you won't, because you'll be so interested to continue the story that you'll read the other two. But what I mean by that is, it could be a standalone book. It could end, it would end in a place that is satisfactory, but also has, leaves room for there to be more to the story, but it's not necessary. And Steve purposely wrote the other two, the Revival, and then the third book, the Renewal. He purposely wrote them to pick up where the first and the second leave off. So I don't recommend reading two before one or three. I don't recommend reading them out of order. And if you only want to get one, they're available on Amazon. I'm going to leave the links for these books also in the About section. In the description. His channel, Integrative Preparedness, Steve Smith, and the links to each three books, they're available on Amazon. I encourage you to read these books. If you guys are preppers, especially those who have any military or police background, homestead, really anything. Let me just stop right there, because any level of prepping that you do, if you're prepping, for a type of an event that will change not just your life, but everybody's life around you, and that things will be affected in such a way that everybody will have to work together, I encourage you to read these books. For me, it gave me such a perspective, and I don't want to give anything away in the book. I'm going to talk a little bit about it here in a second, but it gave me such a broader perspective of things, a lot of things that I knew about, or would at least had considered rather, but it put it in a realistic way from a point of view in which I was not familiar with, and so therefore I found it extremely helpful as well as super entertaining. Again, believable characters. You've got the story of Jim Wyatt and his nephew, Christian, forgive me here, Steve, but Christian Bell, I believe, and is his nephew, and after this event takes place, Mr. Wyatt gets himself to his home where he's got a family, a wife and children, and his nephew is making his way there, realizing the same thing, that something has gone down, and that he knows that this guy is his uncle is where he needs to be and who he needs to be with. Picks up some folks along the way. That's a whole another story. This thing gets into how we would look at the world and rebuild the world if we had the opportunity to. But the world, rather, your society in the group that you've got to deal with, and then eventually those that you will encounter whether you want to or not. And the rebuilding of something, or the rejuvenation of something, and all the hardships it comes with. You know, we live a soft, cushy life in this Western civilization. So this book puts hardships back in place, in that what other choice do you have when you don't have the modern conveniences and you know, and all the fluffy little things that make your life just peachy, you know, when you've got to roll up your sleeves and work if you want to eat, if you want to live, you know. And but it also presents the idea that this is not necessarily a bad thing. This is not a everybody scrounging around dirty in rags, you know, growling at each other in a feral way. You know, there is some of that. You know, you see some of that in these books, in this story, but you see so much more. It was. I don't know. I could go on. I don't want this video to be too long, and I could go on and on and on. It just was a very good book, well written. It kept me engrossed. I mean, I can't wait for. He's got a new series coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and say it because he mentioned it in an earlier video too. But it will sort of pick up after this series, but it will include much more. It will sort of include some of the characters that you're going to meet and their story, but it will branch out more, and it's called the New America series. But that's not what we're talking about. I've yet to see that. It's not out. And but anyway, the Stonemont series, the Reversion, which is book 1. Again, a reversion is a return to a previous state, practice, or belief. And that's what he tells in that book, is literally that story. A return to a previous state of practice, a previous state, practice, or beliefs. And all of the above. And then second in the series, the Stonemont series, is the revival and improvement in the condition or strength of something. The revival, right? And then thirdly in the Stonemont series, the renewal, an instance of resuming an activity or state after an interruption. So resuming an activity or state after an interruption. I would say more so in the renewal, it is not just the instance of resuming, but it is creating and enacting and making it happen. This was such a good series, and I can't say that enough. I used to read a lot more than I do now. I grew up really enjoying reading, and like movies that I like. If I found something that I liked, a book that I liked, I would read it several times, and I intend to read these books again. But what have happened now is my wife, then my dad, then my mother, then my father-in-law, now my mother-in-law, and next, as soon as they're available, a good friend of mine from my prepping group. These books are getting passed around and read. I mean, sorry about that, another camera hiccup. I don't know why it does that. It's a SD card issue. But anyway, the point is, these books have been passed around. My copies have already been passed around a good bit. I encourage you to go to Amazon, check out these links, his channel and the 3 books, links in my description, and go check him out. He's also on Patreon, as am I. I hope you join me on Patreon. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. Also to Steve's over at Integrative Preparedness. Go check him out. Check us both out here and on Patreon, and check out the books more than anything. I guarantee you will love them. You will love them. If you like this channel, if you like the kind of stuff we talk about, whether you like the idea of some of the things that may come to pass in our lifetimes, one of the things this book illustrates is that it's one thing to survive, it's another thing to live. You understand? And so there's a lot of hope. There's always hope, okay? There's always hope. Hope in Christ and just hope in the future, you know? Our God has a plan to give us a future and not to harm us, you know? So that being said, check it all out. Check me out. Thanks for checking me out. And this is the Real World Prepper. Steve, I hope I've done you a good service here. I mean what I say about these books. They're fantastic. Go support him, the books. Support me here on this channel. Thanks so much, Real World Prepper. Until next time, bye-bye.